and welcome to Mediation Works. I'm Wendy Lakusta, and I'm here with my colleague Sharon Sutherland. And today we have with us fellow colleagues, mentors that we've worked with for many, many years. We have Richard Singer, we have Julie Daum, and we have Gordon White. And you can see all of our happy faces here. Gordon's isn't showing up because he's attending this webinar from Croatia. So welcome, everybody. And good morning. Basically, what this segment is going to be about is along the line of different kinds of mentoring models. We're going to talk to the people we have here about different aspects of mentoring that are very critical, because here in BC, at least over the past 20 years or so, there have been very standard models of mentoring. There have been standard practicums in place. For instance, the court mediation practicum, there was the child protection mediation practicum, and those were built on a model of matching or pairing a mentor and a mentee through 10 mediations. And they would work with their different mentors and learn that way and get a lot of feedback and so on. So that came in everybody's mind, sort of the go-to way to mentor. There currently is no formal practicum in place, and there are a lot of trained mediators out there who want to get the experience. And so what we want to talk about is maybe opening our minds a little bit about the critical aspects of mentoring that might be important and maybe mentors out there such as us can offer, as opposed to going through a formal 10 mediation type of mentoring model. So that's what we want to talk about. And I'll start it off by giving an example. Is that I'm not in a position in my practice right now to offer to go through 10 mediations necessarily. That would be tough to do because I have a lot of government contracts and there's confidentiality and various reasons why not. So I probably can't offer that just across the board. But what I can offer as a mentor is to do some pre-briefing if somebody's going into a mediation and they're concerned, they want to strategize, they want to brainstorm a little bit. I can meet with them before they go into a mediation and talk about that. I'm also prepared to meet with folks and do pre-briefing after a mediation, what went well, what didn't go well, do some brainstorming, that kind of thing. So that's just an example of what I might be able to offer. So I'd like to, Sharon, do you want to talk a little bit about what your ideas are?
Well, sure. I'm happy to jump in, Wendy. I'm kind of conscious that I want to hear from everybody else too. But on the same topic as you, certainly I've found that there's a real value for many new mediators to have somebody to brainstorm ideas about not just mediation itself, but how do I get mediations, for instance. And that's somewhere where I have found that I'm able to not say I can do 10 mediations with somebody, but I can say, look, I can sit down over lunch and let's brainstorm the various ways that your unique background would give you opportunities to find mediations and how you might go about doing that. And that in and of itself it's a good starting point. We can touch base over time. I've said a few times, and I'm just going to say it here, and others might want to contribute thoughts about it. It's easy enough to take a lunch meeting on a cold call and say, sure, I'll sit down and chat with you about this and start brainstorming and hear about where you're coming from. It's an entirely different thing to say, and that's going to lead to this extensive relationship over the next 20 years where I will be supporting you in your mediation background, in all of your practice and pursuits. It's very much about finding a fit, but that first discussion is an easy one to have and a way to explore ideas and joint interests.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying, Sharon, is that there's different ways to be a mentor, right? I think a lot of people maybe have the preconception that you're following this model, a structured model of mediating through a program. Now that there really are no programs, And so there's different ways that you can mentor. And, one of them is to develop some kind of relationship and defining what that relationship is. And there's different ways to create a mentoring relationship that works for both parties.
Yeah, and Richard, you've done a couple of things post some of these formal practicums, right? And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, what are you trying to do as a mentor if you're setting up some kind of relationship that's more personal, less part of a professional program?
Sure, I can compare the two because I've mediated, I've mentored in structured models, whether it's small claims, family, or the child protection. Mm-hmm. But lately, I've mentored a few individuals, just sort of privately, people who have contacted me, and really, it's because they need the mentored mediations to qualify for the family mediation roster through Mediate BC. So they have a motive, they have some criteria that they need to meet. It's become less structured over time. But the idea is that, to try to establish some form of relationship that meets their needs. And what I've found, at least with the last two women that I've worked with, is that they actually come in with quite high skills as mediators. They've gone through training in their individual cases. They've been trained through the Justice Institute, and they're motivated, and they have good skills. So for me, it's been a matter of determining with them and what their needs are and how to best satisfy their needs. And a lot of times it's really just being a person in the room to confirm for them that what they're doing and what they're saying, how they're handling situations, their use of mediation skills and mediation process is appropriate. They're doing it well, and that helps build their confidence to carry it forward and to take more chances and to be the mediators. So that's what I've been doing mostly lately, is just being that support person for them, and of course talking about the mediation ahead of time and then debriefing it afterwards, but really not following a structured model that requires a lot of documentation and a lot of meetings, set criteria that they would need. So it's a little bit looser than previous. I'm going to stop there to let people comment.
And it sounds like we're on the same page with that, Richard. That's kind of where I'm at as well. So, Julie, what are your thoughts?
Well, thanks. I've been lucky enough to be mentored by most of you, and I'm trying to do my best to fulfill a moral responsibility myself to help mentor. And so I think some of the things, other than the formal processes of being mentored, are networking, introducing. So that's an important thing, is that other people who could possibly help. So introducing your mentee to, or even just they're not maybe your mentee, but helping them find other networks that they can access. And I know that I've really utilized this with you, Wendy, is feedback after a mediation and preparing for a mediation, is getting that coaching from you and brainstorming and ideas about how I could do things differently. Some of the other things I've done is coaching or mentoring as a coworker. So somebody I've worked with in a formal position who has less experience than me, and helping them develop their practice through sharing my experiences, and just often it's debriefs at a work situation, etc. One of the things that has happened for me as a child protection mediator, and like you, I can't mentor people in that situation, but there are people who are in the field of child welfare who want to become mediators, and they often are attendees at my mediation. So sometimes I will share time with them afterwards to talk about the dynamic of what happened in a mediation and how that was affected by what I either did or didn't do, and they can offer their observations and feedback, and just ask questions about why I did something or why I didn't do something, and have those conversations. One of my most important mentoring relationships has been completely informal, and it really has been a friendship, a personal relationship. And one of the important things that she's done for me is really suggested further education by sharing books and resources, and pointing out courses or conferences that I could attend.
Right. Okay, that's great. Gordon, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just going to add a few possibilities to the things that the rest of you have said. So one is that I at least a few times a year, I'm in a situation where I'm training and I can take someone on as a coach. So I try to take people on as coaches who are interested in the mediation field, and that becomes an opportunity to spend a day with that person. And that provides lots of different mini conversations during the course of that day about dispute resolution and the mediation field. I've also served as a kind of career counselor, or career coach would be a better term probably, where I've maintained a relationship with someone over quite a few years, and where we periodically have conversations kind of about where that person is in their development and what are the different options going forward. I also find that in general, once you've been a mediator for some years, that you have an understanding and a scope of the field that's very difficult to acquire in any other way. And that you can, I think I've helpfully educated people in kind of what's going on out there. Like what is, personal injury mediation? What is child protection? What is family mediation? What is, organizational mediation, harassment, so you can give someone really a broad spectrum of what is possible, I think, and then they can start beginning to think about, where would I be comfortable? What sort of path could I take? Where's an entry place for me based on my experience and my interest?
Right.
Yeah.
Those are excellent points. Sharon, what are you?
Well, what Gordon's saying is something that really resonates for me. Because in one of the things that I think most of you know, all of you know, because I've called on all of you at various times, I do have lots of opportunities for people coaching. And I think I do the same thing you do, Gordon. I try to bring new people in, both because it's a great experience for them. It's a great learning opportunity. But as you say, you get a chance to know people there too. You have different kinds of relationships. It gives me a chance to build a referral network where I will make referrals, because I don't do every type of mediation, but I get lots of calls asking, where would you find somebody? And if I've been able to see somebody in that kind of context, I have a much greater confidence in making a referral to somebody or suggesting to them, because I know them a little bit. You might be really good at this, but you might actually want to connect with somebody else as a co-mediator. You would fit really well with Wendy. Richard would be a fantastic person for you to talk to about this. It's those kind of things, because I get to know something. So that coaching is a really, it can be things where you're asking somebody to step up, but you're getting a lot of information there to be able to help them in a better way, to be just more tailored to what their interests are. And Gordon, you were kind of reminding me too of the other thing that I think I do a lot of, which is because I'm involved in speaker series, setting those up. I'm involved in things like going to conferences and doing different kinds of activities that aren't necessarily they might be about mediation, they might be related, but they're often a little bit tangentially connected. It's great for me to be able to invite a new voice. Every time I do a conference, I try to have somebody who's a new voice on any panel or co-presenting with me. Ways for people to share their own expertise and the ways that they do know things, so that they're able to say, situated within the mediation community, I come from this other background and these are the things I bring. It gives them a chance to reflect and talk, but it also gives them a chance to connect with people in the room who might not have thought about how mediation intersects with that particular area. So it's kind of, there's ways that simply connecting with and creating opportunities for people can actually create really good opportunities for them as mediators, even though it's not specific to, I've got a mediation for you.
Absolutely. And I think that the biggest thing for me is that I don't see mentoring as a hierarchical kind of thing where, I'm the person who knows it all and I'm going to, teach you. I do my best learning through mentoring. It's a shared experience.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
I was going to say that when we were talking about what do you get out of being a mentor, and that's the learning process for me. It keeps me on my toes because I have to be aware of how I come across and what I say and what I do, which makes me a better mediator. But also, I do learn things from some of the mediators, some of the way they handle situations, or some of the research that the mediators do, that they take the time to research case law and the law, and are able to share information that I'm not able to do because I'm busy, or I'm just not taking the time to do. And so, yeah, it's a learning experience for me as well, and that's a benefit of being a mentor.
Great. Yeah, and we'll circle back to that, as you said, Richard, kind of in a separate conversation. In terms of, though, that idea of mentoring, it sounds like everybody's in agreement that there's a bunch of different pieces that are valuable things one can contribute and ways that people can connect with new mediators that are short of being part of a massive project or this is something really formal. There are a lot of things that we can contribute and a lot of things that are beneficial. I'm going to highlight one more that I just know is coming up, but is something that, like, I hate paperwork. This is not going to be news to anybody. But I do find that that is an area where a lot of people want some support. They want to know about what does an agreement to mediate look like? I need to set up the business practice. I need to understand, how do I do the scheduling? What's the best way to do that? There's some really concrete pieces of getting a mediation practice off the ground that many of us can help with. I should not be that person who helps with that. But I know, like, Jennifer Crawford is going to be offering a session on exactly how to structure a business to set up a mediation, something that's really valuable for a lot of people. Those are pieces you just don't necessarily know.
That's great. So we're actually running out of time, but I'd like to thank everybody very much for being a part of this, and hopefully it'll be helpful for both mentors and people who want some mentoring out there.